Why in the world did they put a preacher last? That's going to be scary, okay? My goal today is just to give you a family's perspective on what MCHB has done and how they have impacted me personally as a father and as a parent. So we'll just advance it with our finger. How's that, boss? How do you spell medical home? And for me as a parent, I want to give you a little insight into what's going on inside of us and what was my experience personally as a dad. So 15 years ago, my wife and I are expecting our firstborn. I'm pastoring a small church. Church can't afford to pay me full time, so I'm building custom-built homes. And I get the 911 page. Baby's on the way. And I'm so excited about having my firstborn. And how many parents do I got in the room? Come on, stick your hands up. We need some aerobics here, guys. If you're not a parent, stick your hand up anyways, because you need to. Okay, good. So I'm all excited. As parents, we have these visions and these dreams for our kids. And I wanted an educator. My wife and I have education degrees. We're going to pour ourselves into this kid. They're going to grow up. They're going to change the world. That's kind of what my hope was. So I'm all fired up. I get to the hospital. My midwife has allowed me to deliver all 3 of my kids. So I'm not just cutting cord. I mean actually delivering this kid. So I pull this kid out, and I look at him, and he sticks his tongue out at me. This kid looks weird. Kind of passed him off to the midwife, continue to work with my wife. A few minutes later, the midwife turns to the nurse and says, "Wrap the baby up and bring him to the mama." She says, "I'm not done yet." She says, "Wrap the baby up and bring him to the mama." And I was like, what is going on? And she laid Carl in Catherine's arms. And she said, "WC, it is my strong suspicion that Carl has Down syndrome." She said, "WC, it's time for you to pray." Now that's cultural competence, okay? And I laid hands on Carl, and I dedicated him. And you know what? I see Marie. She's like, "Your prayer was so beautiful." I can't remember a word of what I said, okay? But I'll never forget what Marie prayed. She said, "God, WC's been asking for a teacher, and you decided to give him one. It's just that WC is going to be the student." Most prophetic word I have ever heard, okay? And having a child with special needs and having the right environment of receiving that diagnosis changed the whole worldview of how I was going to work with that child. She steps out the door. She says, "Listen, I need to go get a subspecialist. He's really, really great, but he's not practicing at this hospital. It takes a couple days to get him. Can I make a phone call?" I said, "Please go for it." And I remember her foot was still in the doorway. She was still standing. She goes, "Dr. Gold, do you have a minute?" And in walked Dr. Gold. And in 10 minutes, he gave me a definition of what Down syndrome was and what the effects were. I still use it today working with families. Awesome, clear, concise information on how to work with my child. We had a little murmur. Well, we might have a heart issue. And I still have the napkin of where he drew the heart chamber and what we needed to do. And I was really freaking out because I know they were going to take this kid away for all these tests. Thank you. Looks like I'm running for political office, doesn't it? The next picture, yeah. Go ahead, put that picture up. There we go. Woo! But he says, we're going to run a bunch of tests. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be away from him. He turns to the hospital staff. He says, "This father will never be more than an arm's length away from his child during these tests." I was there for Carl's first meal, a barium sweep, okay? I was there for his echo. They allowed me to be a part. That's family-centered care, okay? So I'm in there with Carl, and we get back to the doctor, and he says, I typically don't share this with all families. If you're a physician, write this one down, okay? Or if you're a practitioner. He says, "I typically don't share this with families, but," he says, "I think you're ready for this." Now, what does that do for me as a parent and as dad? I'm ready for this. He says, in the next 2 weeks, people are going to say some really stupid things to you. And you're not going to know what to do. And everything inside of you, it's like when you're at a funeral, you say something really dumb. What does everybody do? They push away from you. And this wonderful Jewish physician says, you need to apply grace. Now, to an evangelical pastor, that means something. I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm sitting there figuring, I got to give these people grace. And he says, the next 2 weeks, this is going to be happening. I get on the phone, and one of the grandparents, the dumbest thing you could ever say to a parent, okay? And I am just furious, but I step back, I cool down, and I go back. He says, what you need to do, what the doctor said is, you need to bring people in. Go back and say, that dumb thing you said? It's okay, we're all saying dumb things. And he brought me back in, and he taught me those tools, okay? That was really building my confidence and my competence as a parent. I want to give you just a little insight into what's going on inside of us as parents. How many of you have a loved one that's passed away? Boom, you hit the bottom of this little chart up here. And slowly, 6 months to a year later, you're starting to get better. And then all of a sudden there's an anniversary or a holiday and there's grief again. When you have a child with special needs, it's cyclical. Go ahead and give me the next one. All of a sudden I get an evaluation back for Carl. Go ahead and give me the next one. And they say he's at a third grade, second month level. And the kid's 15. And what do? Boom, I go down. And I can't stay depressed. So what I have to do is I have to get myself out of this depression, right? So I start really focusing in on this kid, and I'm getting better, and I climb out of that ditch. And then all of a sudden, my nephew gets married. And I wonder, is Carl ever going to get married? Or Carl comes to me and says, Daddy, can I drive? When you're working with families with special needs, you're going to find this grief process is cyclical. It doesn't end. When does it end, guys? The day he dies or the day I die. That's a lot of grief for us as parents. And when the medical society comes around me and begins to understand that and begins to give me that family-centered care and begins to really focus in on me, it makes a difference. So how do I spell a medical home? Or what have I seen that's been helpful for me? The first thing, go ahead, next slide. Cultural competence, okay? A safe place. The second thing, clear, concise information that cuts to the heart of what I really need to know as a parent. Don't give me all the fluff. As a dad, I don't need the poems. I want bullets. Tell me what I need to do, okay? The next thing I need is a family and patient-centered care. And I received that in such an incredible way in that original diagnosis and there in my medical home, okay? Where they're really caring for me and my family and empowering me to do the things I need to do. Increased my sense of competence and confidence, okay? And really a comprehensive network. Within 6 hours of Carl being born, knock on the hospital door. In walked a mama who had a 7-year-old with Down syndrome. She says, you have any questions? She changed my life. And it was parent to parent before it was called Family Voices in South Carolina, but we're Family Voices now. And I started volunteering with that organization. I started buying into it. Now I work for them. You guys, Title V, MCHB gave my medical community the tools it needed to do it right. And you have impacted me forever because of that. And I will be engaged. And now you guys are doing something really cool. You're helping to fund, next slide. You're helping to fund the Family Voices, okay, around the nation. That we've got these centers of parents that will engage and help those families navigate through that healthcare system, which is huge for me. Okay? Powerful, powerful, powerful tools. So how does WC spell family-centered care or a medical home? Hold that next slide up there for my friend. Punch the button for me. Oh, there we go. Really, it is family-centered care, and we're getting it. In some places we still got a lot of work to do, but we are getting it, and it's making a difference. So I just want to thank you guys for your involvement, your engagement. Sometimes you're out there, you're just doing this stuff, and all it looks like is paperwork, okay? You're making a difference in our lives, and you're making a difference in our families' lives, and I thank you.